Hey, Tim Albright here. Thanks for joining us on this launch webinar. That person right there is Kiana Pompa. Kiana is the product manager for BRAVIA Professional Display. Welcome, ma'am.
Hi, everyone.
So today we're going to talk about advanced display solutions for the evolving AV and IT landscape. Before we get into that, first of all, thank you for joining us, the AV IT user, for really just kind of giving us an hour of your time, letting us hang out with you. Please ask questions, right? One thing here is that Kiana is an incredible resource, and you need to pick her brain and get everything you can out of her. While we have her here for this hour. You can ask questions there on the right. If you scroll to the bottom, you're also going to find a networking section. Now, this is a little bit like a trade show where you can connect with other people. You can send direct messages, start conversations with anybody below this part right here. You can also check out the polls. We'll be posting several polls throughout the next hour. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll find both Kiana and I. And if you click on our names, you can connect with us on LinkedIn. So, Kiana, tell us a little bit about yourself and about what it means to be the product manager for Bravia.
Awesome. Okay. Well, like you said, my name is Kiana Pompa. I'm the product manager for our Bravia Professional Displays. And I know Bravia is a big name in the consumer world. And my mission in life has been to make it a big name in the professional side as well.
Yeah.
So, Pro Bravia is really my focus. But before that, I was a sales support engineer at Sony as well. So, my career at Sony has now, I'm coming up 8 years in September, which is so crazy to think how time flies by. So essentially, my background is in AV in general, and then we have cameras, LED. I dabbled in all of that until I became product manager as of a year and a half ago now. So
Very cool.
exciting.
Yeah. So let's get into the Bravia. But you mentioned the fact that the Bravia is certainly well known in the consumer side. I would argue it's also becoming really well known on the commercial side. Let's kind of break down the Bravia itself. First and foremost, let's talk about picture quality and why picture quality matters.
Definitely. I think that Sony has always been in the forefront of picture quality, and this is really kind of like what we coin ourselves, right, on the consumer side and the professional side, is creating a canvas for the creator's intent. So that's really, really meaningful to us, considering that we are also a broadcast camera company, right? We are creating content. We want to make sure that whatever we use to play back that content is really giving your image justice. So this is where the Pro Bravia line comes in with like all of our picture quality. So we support like Rec 709, VT 2020, HDR, HDR10. So all of that, beautiful imagery, you have confidence that, your logo is going to be a true red or a true black. And this is nothing new on our display line, but something that we did launch that has been recently new is called Deep Black Non-Glare. And this is just our fancy way of saying haze coating. And of course, I know that haze is not something that's a new technology. It's been in the market for a very long time. And we are a little late to the game, but we always say at Sony, soon only not yet, because we definitely make sure that we test everything before we go to market. So with our deep black non-glare, it's basically a combination of anti-glare and low reflection. So we give that both on our display to give it like a special coating where if you know what haze is a lot of the times it's one or the other. And on top of this, you have to sacrifice one thing. So either it's going to be the black level. So because of this anti-reflection, you kind of have like a grayish white coating on top. And then on top of this, it's if you do like low reflection, you risk your off angle viewing. So if you look at it from like one side, you'll notice that it's basically like you can't really see the image. So think of it in a conference room. You're at the center of your room, and then you are not able to see the image if you're on the side. So with the deep black non-glare, we definitely combat that. And I do have a video of it. Maybe we can play it back because
Yeah.
obviously seeing is believing. But essentially, it's a comparison of what traditional displays look like without that deep black non-glare. And you'll see that even in like a conference room setting, think of it like when you walk into a restaurant and you see one of those menu boards. And a lot of the times we don't think about this. We don't think about how displays have different types of technology where it depends on how well you can read it, right? So imagine coming into a restaurant and not knowing what to order because you're off access. Or even, your branding, right? You want like that Starbucks screen. You want to make sure that that is representative of what you're showing, especially with those black levels. So you'll see in the video, just playing back of just like that anti-reflectiveness, but also rich in color. So this is available on our BZ40L series as well as our BZ53L series. We offer that from 55 inches all the way up to 98 inches. And it's our flagship model. It's pretty much the most popular one that we have. And yeah.
So you mentioned off axis a couple of times, and I know enough about on axis and off axis to be dangerous. So I want you to dig into that for a second.
Okay.
When you talk about on axis and off axis, what exactly are we talking about there?
So when you directly face the display, you have a sense of imagery. So
Okay.
within those that angle, you see a perfect image. But as you start moving off to the right, you'll see that you see loss of visibility. So it could be that that haze coating can completely eliminate the picture for you, or certain areas now the color isn't accurate or the black levels are off. So it just depends. Every viewer inside the room should try to have like at equal viewing capability and that everyone can see the same image as you. But of course, when you add this onto your display, yes, now it's anti-reflective, so you're not going to see the lights and it's legible, but it's only for the person at the center of the room. And then everybody else at the ends that are not at a straightforward angle, you're going to have low visibility in that space. So it's definitely hard, and that's where we created deep black non-glare to combat those issues.
All right. So you can be off axis, as you say, of a Pro BRAVIA display and still get the correct color and still get all of the other benefits of somebody that's
Correct.
sitting directly straight on.
Correct.
All right. Um, let's talk about the provisioning, and provisioning can take a couple different angles. First of all, it's when you have an integrator or a system integrator come in and obviously deploy a number of displays, but also once they're up and running, how does an IT manager monitor them? How do they make sure that they're still on and then that there's no issues with them?
Yeah. So this has been a long journey for us, right? So device provisioning and device monitoring. So if any of our viewers right now are Pro Bravia customers, they might experience the Android operating system. So we are an Android-based platform. So with that comes a lot of capabilities. So when you become a new user, there's a lot of settings that you can take advantage of. It literally becomes your own control system built into your display. And sometimes that can be viewed as an amazing thing. And then others that are not used to this capability seem like, wow, this is going to take a long time to configure, or there's so many options. Where do I start? So this is where our journey came in with device provisioning. So a lot of the feedback we got from the industry is, you know what, sometimes I just want a quote unquote dumb display. I just want it to be on HDMI 1 and that's it. I don't want network. I don't want anything. I'll take care of it on the far end. And then there's other users that want to be able to install digital signage on board. They want to be able to lock down IR. They want complete visibility. They want remote control. They want monitoring. So we are trying to service all of those clients the best way possible. And I think that with device provisioning and device monitoring that we now have available as of this year, we have both. It's really, you know, like life changing for me to be able to provide those resources. It's been really a big topic for us. So let's start with device provisioning. So what
Okay.
we could do is we do have a free platform, free option called the device provisioning tool. Now with this tool, what we could do is pre-configure all of our pro settings, including some of the normal settings, and install packages. And what are packages? Packages are basically Android applications that you can pre-install. So if you have access to your APK, say for example, you're a digital signage partner, like we have a wide range of ecosystem, like if you're SkyKit, AppSpace, 22 Miles, if you have that application, what we could do is preload it into our server and then we can install it. So in the past, this was a big deal because you had to get integrators to come in, install the application for you either via USB stick or go through a Google account. So you had to create a Google account and then load it from the Google App Store. And it was just like a lot of work going into it, especially when you're using an IR remote instead of a mouse and keyboard, right? That takes a long time. So how can we make it easier for everyone? Well, device provisioning tool does that. So you can create a profile, assign that profile to your display. As soon as it hits the network, whether it's Wi-Fi or wired, it will basically say, hey, I'm a device that needs provisioning, please confirm. You scan the QR code on the display itself when you power on, and then it'll pull that data from our server, and it's a one shot. So it'll pull all that data, it'll provision. It takes around 10 minutes tops, might be a little longer if you decide to update the firmware out of the box. And then it will have all of that configuration for you. The difference between device provisioning tool and device management platform is that device provisioning tool is, again, a one-shot deal. So once you provision, you're done. So this is perfect for those customers that don't want the device on the network. They just want to be able to provision, lock it down, and install. So you don't have to, have that risk if like there's security concerns or maybe you haven't gone through the InfoSec process. We can completely lock it down. Versus device management platform, we can go the extra mile where we can provision your display, but it stays on the network, again, Wi-Fi or wireless support. And then what we could do is monitor the display. So what comes in that monitor platform? So you have access to screenshots, so you could see what the display is doing in real time. So if you want like proof of play for digital signage, or say, for example, you're troubleshooting in a conference room, you can see what that end user is seeing on the far end as well. We also have an alerting system. So say, for example, if the display goes offline, it will alert you either via email or through your username. You can set up a schedule. So say, for example, you during business hours, power on and off. And again, it will notify you if a display is offline or online with not in those hours. You can have multiple users. So you can create as many users as you want to manage this platform. For integrators, you can use it as a service. So say, for example, you have multiple clients and you want to be able to provide that. You can create multiple tenants, multiple organizations, and support them remotely as well. The same platform allows you to update the packages. So we talked about having digital signage on board. So say, for example, if AppSpace has the newest, latest, and greatest package, instead of going through the Google Play Store again, you can upload the latest APK and then push that to your whole fleet of displays. So you make sure that you're always, up to date. Same concept with firmware. We can also update the firmware on that device management platform. And if anything goes offline, you'll see directly on that platform as well.
On the firmware update, is that something where you have to actively update the firmware? You can't set it to where it does it automatically, right?
Unfortunately, no, because doing a firmware update does take a lot of bandwidth. So we want to make sure that you are the one initiating it. And we don't do bulk where we do like 100 at a time, because again, it's bandwidth intensive. So we do have to do it one at a time when we do a firmware update.
I would say it's fortunate that you can't schedule a firmware update.
Exactly. We don't want to break any.
You don't want to break anything, and
exactly.
There's an old adage in systems programming: you don't update on Friday afternoon. That's a bad idea. You mentioned a couple of things there. One of the things about the provisioning tool is actually shortens the amount of deployment time, which, not to be silly, but that equates actual real dollars, because depending on the labor rate and all that jazz, your systems integrator doesn't have to spend as much time on site doing this, and it actually shortens the amount of install time. When it comes to any sort of management platform, though, I want to ask you, Kiana, do you have the ability to bring that system in either through API or something else like that into another, let's say, single pane of glass is one of those common phrases, but another monitoring system such as ServiceNow or something like that?
So yes, so we, as of right now, the device management platform doesn't have a specific API built in. But say, for example, like ServiceNow, we can email like your ServiceNow account to create a ticket for us. We are getting a lot of feedback that that's something that they want to integrate. So we have that in our roadmap. So it's, to be added as of right now. But what we also geared towards, and I did want to kind of save this for like the end when we were talking about like the power of SOC. But we do have cloud APIs. These cloud APIs are basically being, as of right now, our first iteration of them have been released to our certified partners per se.
Okay.
What are these partners? Think of them like Crestron, Logitech, Extron, Kramer, our digital signage partners like AppSpace, 22 Miles, Navori. They would have access to this API. So at the end of the day, something that's completely different with Sony is that we don't have our own signage application, and we also, we just launched our device management platform. But we know that you as an end user probably have already standardized on other platforms. And the reason why we released our own, it was just from the market, the request from the end user, right? So what we're seeing now is that now that we have it available, they're like, wait, we love this, but I would love to see it on Crestron. Can we put it on Crestron XIO?
Yeah.
And our response has been, yes, we would love to see it there, right? So what we're doing is now creating this ecosystem of open source platform with our cloud APIs. So partners like Crestron can have access to our cloud APIs. We just need voice of customer, right? So if you're that end user that has standardized on whatever platform it may be, and you want to see your Sony device from that dashboard, let us know. Reach out to me, reach out to your third-party partner and say, hey, I want to see Sony on my dashboard. They have access to it now. It's just a question of them developing it and integrating it into their platform. And of course, that does take time. It's not something that you're going to see tomorrow, right? But now the APIs are available, and it's just creating that buzz in like the industry. No one wants to pay for like 3 subscriptions, right? No one wants that. So we're definitely cognizant of it, and we're trying to move towards a solution that unifies all platforms.
But you've also got a pathway, right, for folks. It's not like you're not
Exactly.
saying no. You're just saying here's the direction. Here's the journey you have to do to get there.
Exactly.
All right. If you've got questions for Kiana, like I said, right hand side, you ask questions, and we'll get to them as they come in. One of the things about the BRAVIA I want to talk about for a second is the robustness. And we started this conversation saying that BRAVIA is well known in the consumer display, right?
Mhm.
And they are. And you guys have been talking about the commercial display for a number of years now. And one of the things that I learned a long time ago, I won't tell you the whole story, but let's just say that I made some mistakes when I was designing a system, and I put in some consumer displays, right? There is a vast difference between a consumer display and a commercial display. So let's talk about the robustness first, and why, Keanu, somebody would want to go with a commercial display, and not do what I did and put in some consumer ones.
Yeah. I think this conversation is just like an everyday battle for me, right? For like an end user, it's so easy to just, go to Costco, Best Buy, and get like the most cost effective one.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, what you're really paying for is the fact that it is going to be a 24/7 operated display. We test it for this. We test it for portrait and landscape installation. We make sure it's rugged enough to, like dust, right? Where you're installing it, we think about those things. So when you're buying a commercial display, it's being used 24/7, say in like an airport, in a train station, in a corporate environment. And we want to make sure that we're building a display that you have confidence will work every single time, right? Um, so that's a really big deal for us. We also have everything built into it for commercial installation. So it basically comes with like spacers to do like center mounting. It also has a reinforced structure. So, one of like my claim to fame with BRAVIA is that we have a very low failure rate, and that really has to do with the encasing around it. So when it does get delivered to you, you have that peace of mind that your display isn't cracked, right? It's very robust. Um, and I would also say that the applications, right? When you install it in a corporate environment, you want to make sure that the display is going to respond and be operational 24/7. So you want to have that peace of mind. When you purchase a consumer display, it's not always the same. And say, for example, you need support. When you purchase through the pro channel, especially with Sony, although we're such a large organization, I always say that we still run as a small business. So what I mean by that is that you have access to our sales support engineers for pre-sales. So we have territory-based sales support engineers, what I was in the past, my first job here at Sony. And what happens here is that if you are an end user, installer, integrator, it doesn't really matter. You have access to your sales support engineer and you can call them directly. I think the beauty of this is, say you're on the East Coast and it's after hours, you always can call the West Coast person, they're still there. And you just have a live person to talk to. And this is only available in that professional channel. So if you have questions about the menu and, hey, how does this work? You have a person to go to. And then on top of that, say, for example, there is a defect and you need a replacement unit. On the Sony side, we also have Pro Support, and Pro Support is located in North America. So we have a center in New Jersey. We also have a center in San Diego and in Toronto. So really great that everything is local. We have a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time. Our displays are advanced replacement. So say, for example, if anything breaks, what we do is we send you a replacement unit. We do not repair. So that's another amazing perk when you purchase professional. Professional displays also have a crazy warranty, at least on our side. So we talked about that deep black non-glare coating that's available on the BZ40L series and the 53L series. That comes standard, a 5-year advanced replacement warranty. So that's really big with our education customers because usually they have that 5-year refresh. And it was really what we geared towards on the education side is to give them those guaranteed 5 years. So for that model, they already have it built in. So they have peace of mind. If anything goes wrong, they have Sony to back them every step of the way. And then any of the other models that we have in our lineup, that's a 3-year advanced exchange warranty that can be extendable up to 5 years for an additional fee. So pretty amazing there. What else am I thinking of on the professional side?
Well, and the other thing, I want you to kind of hit on that live person to talk to, because one of the things that 100 years ago when I was a tech manager, you're putting things up, and I was a tech manager for a college or university, right? So it would come in waves, and summertime certainly was one of the most wonderful and difficult times at the same time, right? Because you're kind of pushing and you're trying to get before the fall starts, and you're working, crazy, and it's Thursday or Friday before the semester starts on Monday, and you find something that just is off. You just can't figure it out. Talk about that benefit of having an actual live person to walk you through, again, what you're seeing, right? But have them actually physically walk you through and help you troubleshoot.
Yeah, I would say that I just did this recently. So I flew out. We have a customer named Oodle Noodle out in Western Canada. And they were one of our first installs that really believed in like the SOC, single point of failure, digital signage. So Oodle Noodle, that restaurant is basically using our Sony BRAVIA displays with combination of Play digital signage. So they're using everything on SOC. And what they're doing is using our pro settings to lock down their display to enable that application. So every time the display starts, it will go directly to that application and then play every single time. Well, what they've noticed is that it was a franchise, right? So there's like 18 locations and every area was different. So they didn't feel like peace of mind, like they would get calls and say, hey, like my display is on, or Play Digital Signage didn't launch. And at the end of the day, it wasn't really a disconnect with like Sony, right? Like it was just a settings configuration. But at Sony, what we did is we went the extra mile. I flew out there and I basically went to a couple of locations with the owners and walked through all of the settings, gave them training on this is the way you should optimize your display. Then we created configuration files using device provisioning tool and USB sticks. So they had both functions. Like I mentioned before, device provisioning tool is completely free and you can create a profile for them. And that's over the network. And then areas where they didn't have network, they could use a USB stick as well. So now their integrator can go in and just use a USB stick and install. Or if they want to use the network, they can install as well. And then on top of that, the franchisee was trained that they can now do it themselves if something occurs. And then again, it was just like a quick, like, hey, let me go in there live and like teach you about pro settings. And then we solve the world's problems. Right now, everyone's happy. Everything's working as planned. And now we're in conversations on, hey, like, how do we take this to the next level and put you on device management platform? That way you can support all of your franchisees in every single location.
Yeah.
And this is just a continuous story of just us helping all of our end users combat those issues. So whether you're a restaurant or, like you said, an education customer, and sometimes you just really, really need help. I remember going to one of our customers in Arizona and bringing in a engineer from Japan because they were having issues with like their projectors. Like we genuinely really care. And I don't say that just because I work at Sony, but I personally care about all my customers and I want to make sure that they have a good experience, especially when they're entrusting me in trying a new system, right? Something that's new for them. Like they've never done digital signage over the cloud. They've never done anything over the network. So I just want to make sure, even if it wasn't my fault or it wasn't my display, you just missed a setting, I want to make sure that you're happy with your display and your experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned the fact that you can ask Kiana any questions on the right-hand side. We do have one real quick. Rick Nimitz asked, is the device management platform free?
That is a good question. So again, two different platforms, one for provisioning and one that has provisioning, monitor, and control. So that's the device management platform, and that one does come with a fee if you're going to remotely manage your display. This is because we do have to place the device on the cloud, so that's data that we're storing. So that does come as a subscription-based fee. We can connect you to a salesperson within your area to give you accurate pricing based on what you're purchasing with all the discounts and stuff like that. And then if you want device provisioning tool, I can hopefully send you over a link, Tim,
Yep.
that we can post in the chat. You just create an account and you can start provisioning today. Super simple. It's completely free.
Excellent. Kiana, you mentioned Oodle Noodle, which I love that name. But you've also got a couple other use cases. One is very close to me in St. Louis. Over just across the state, the Kansas City Chiefs standardized on Sony BRAVIA displays. Talk about that installation.
Yeah, definitely. So they're putting it in their stadium and their suites. We really won that because of our image quality representation of that true red color, right? So that's a big deal for them and making sure that it's color accurate. And then the pro settings, being able to lock down their display was also a key win. At the time of installation, we didn't have device management platform live. So we're hoping maybe that would be the next key win there is if they want to manage their displays remotely, maybe we can, convince them to use device management platform. That's not our only stadium win. You'll see a couple of Sony logos throughout the stadiums that haven't been officially approved to talk about. But one of them we do have is the San Diego Padres. They're a big time long partner. They're down the street from me. And all of those displays are also Sony. So that's something really big for us as well. In the corporate side, we have a lot of wins as well. They're probably our corporate has been our number one display management customer because that's been very, very important to them is to be able to make sure that these displays are online. And then education, that has been the forefront of our business. It's kind of where we started was our education focus. Like I mentioned before, that 5-year warranty really attracts our education customers. And with our education, they love the fact that it's like a consumer crossover. So we have a lot of key wins in like their residential halls. So say for example, like because we're an Android operating system, you have access to all of the consumer applications as well.
Okay.
So if you want like Netflix, YouTube, you can preload that onto the display. And then you can specify what applications end users have access to and what they do not. So that's really, really cool. And I think that leads into now, like post COVID, that work from home environment. I always say, like, think of it like a work hard, play harder. So what you could do is take that Pro Bravia display and install, like, say, a Zoom client, and you can take Zoom calls directly from the display or do like a plug and play where you can pull in your laptop and the display will automatically recognize your HDMI signal, and then it will switch to that input. So say if you're watching like YouTube or you're watching Netflix at home, and then you plug in and it's like, okay, it's time to work because I'm working from home. You can plug in and then you can take a conference call, and you can basically optimize your display for that type of workflow. So I think that's one of the coolest things that I do at my home, is having that cross functionality where I could use my display as a consumer product, but also have all of the professional stuff built in.
No, that is really cool. You mentioned education there, and the 5 year replacement. Talk about what does that look like? Because you know, how do I go about, actually, if something happens in that first three to, those first 5 years, what does the process look like for the advanced replacement? How easy is it to get a hold and start that process?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a big deal, right? Everyone says about their warranty, but how do I get access
Yeah.
to that? So, super simple. I always say the easiest way to do it is, although we do have a phone number, we can put in the chat. I think the easiest way to do it is to email prosupport@sony.com.
Okay.
And the reason why I say email is the best way is because you can provide pictures. So, say for example, the biggest claim that we get is damage during shipment, right?
Mm.
It's probably every display manufacturer's number one thing. I don't have control over every single driver, unfortunately. But if that does happen to you, what I would request for you to do is email prosupport@sony.com. If you have images of the display and the box, that is super helpful. Please provide that in your email. And then if you provide the address where you want your replacement item to be shipped to, your contact information, and basically information of what happened and what went wrong. If you have this all documented in one single email, we normally don't ask follow-up questions. If you've already given us all the information, we just say, thank you for contacting us. Your replacement has been approved. Here is your tracking number or the expected time of when we will give you a replacement unit. So we try to make it as painless as possible. Of course, if this is something that we need to troubleshoot, so say, for example, like, hey, my RS-232 is not working, send me a replacement unit. That's not going to happen. We are going to do our due diligence to make sure that, you have the right commands. Maybe it's your wire. So those things, again, still email us, give us full information, like your model, your firmware, any like the controller that you're using. Basically, just work with us for those things. We obviously still need to troubleshoot, but at the end of the day, we do send a replacement if it is at our fault, right? So we will, again, you're backed up by the Sony advanced warranty. But yeah, anything that needs to be troubleshooted, we do have a 24 to 48-hour turnaround time. And then you have my LinkedIn as well. So if you need anything escalated, you can always contact me, and I can definitely help you as well.
Yeah. And if it is your RS-232, flip your pins 2 and 3, and then call Kiana. All right. Just do that. Again, I used to do this. All right. And I have unfortunately flipped my pins one too many times. I mentioned the fact that we've got questions. Hit those up. We've got a couple more we'll get to in a second. Kiana, we've done a couple of acronyms. The next one we're going to hit is SOC. So before we go through SOC, define SOC for me.
Okay. So it's system on chip. So
Okay.
that's always like a fancy way of saying we're running an operating system on board. That's the Android operating system. I think SoC has just become a big buzzword within our industry, but it's basically like having a computer on board your display. So it's an all-in-one.
All right. So system on chip, it's an operating system on board. So why does that matter in a commercial display?
Really good answer. So I think really good question. So I think the first thing that I would say is it's low cost to entry. So when you are doing any kind of setup, right? Say for example, in corporate, we're doing video conferencing. We're going to purchase camera, a microphone, a PC to run all of this. For simple spaces like huddle room spaces, when you don't need anything crazy like a big, Logitech Rally and Tap, and it's just a one-on-one video conferencing, say for your home office or huddle room space. What we could do is do it all on board with the help of Zoom, for example. For digital signage, again, if you there's always a time and a place, because I always say like external boxes are needed in a lot of applications. So say for example, like a partner 22 miles, we could do both, where we do onboard digital signage if it's simple. But say for example, wayfinding that requires touch capability and drag and drop and more examination, that requires a beefier processor. And then that's when we upgrade to external boxes. So there's a benefit for both, but if you can run SOC, the beauty of it is you don't have to purchase all of these external things. And then I would say another point to make is that it's fewer areas of failure. So if you have an external box and it's running your digital signage content and that goes down, then you have to replace that. I mean, the display is still good. But then on top of that, that's also another configuration. Are we going to have to, purchase another license, change that subscription, etc.? So it's basically fewer points of failure. Just have one person you deal with, and then if you need a replacement, again, backed up with a 3 or 5 year advanced exchange warranty, which is pretty amazing. And then again, one thing to troubleshoot, we have that capability all in one, where we can do device management platform and install packages remotely. So that's another beauty of doing just a single SoC. You're only troubleshooting one display, one item in your network.
When you're looking at and talking to, let's say, education here or corporate, and they're designing and they're talking with their systems integrator, or they're just going through the process and saying, okay, here's our list of needs and wants and desires, right? Here's the problem we're trying to solve. What are the design considerations between going with a completely SoC, a completely system on chip system, as opposed to, you mentioned, there are times when you need those secondary boxes. Is it when you start, like you mentioned, touch and interactivity, or how do we go down that road and go, okay, this is a system that we can 100% do nothing but system on chip, and maybe over here we need to do something secondary.
Definitely. I think it's a conversation that you start with at the very beginning. I think it's when you start examining what you want to do in your space and then picking a partner that can do both. So,
Okay.
say for example, I'm going to pick on app space, right? Say for example, you start off as an ecosystem where I just want to do digital signage. But then later on, you're like, well, maybe we could do room booking. And then maybe we could do a self check in kiosk. AppSpace kind of offers all of those solutions where you can help grow, right? Where does Sony come into play? Obviously, I don't have something super small that could be a kiosk. The smallest thing I have is a 32-inch. But I do come into play with the digital signage or in the conferencing room spaces. AppSpace partners with people like Logitech, where you can have digital signage running on your Logitech system when there's no meetings, right? And we're just an endpoint. And at that point, it's an external box. But say, for example, in the hallways, when you just want to show a schedule or campus-wide information, we're an endpoint and you don't need an external box, so that you can save a little bit of money there, where you don't have to purchase anything else to add to the display. So I think it's really just a conversation of, what am I trying to accomplish? And in the future, do I have a possibility for growth, so that I can specify the correct partner to align with? And even if I decide not to go that route, and maybe I'll never use video conferencing systems, or maybe I'll never use a kiosk, I have that peace of mind that I can grow with that partner. So yeah, I think it's a conversation. If you're looking at, integrating with signage, work with your manufacturer. Like if it's Sony, I love to have those conversations with you on what we support. Because of the Android operating system, we have a huge ecosystem of third-party partners. I know I mentioned AppSpace, but there's so many of them. I believe we have around 86 partners that we support, and then around 10 key partners that are like our go-to, that are optimized for our display as well. So if you have those conversations or you have questions, again, my LinkedIn information is there. Let's set up a call and we can go through what those expectations are and how we can meet them.
All right. We do have a couple questions. Ken, actually, one of them is about the partners ecosystem. From Mr. David Keene, how do you see how do you see the Sony Alliance Partners ecosystem? How do you see the capability to get together partner companies as key to providing a more flexible AV ecosystem where hardware, quote unquote, talks to hardware more seamlessly and software talks to software with less programming needed. How does the end user see the benefits of that?
Definitely. So I think that goes hand in hand to our conversation, Tim, that we had earlier about our cloud API.
Yep.
I know that we're not there yet, right? I would love to see like a perfect ecosystem. We talked about having multiple subscriptions and how, the digital signage provider is sending the digital signage content, but they don't know what's happening with the endpoint. Maybe the display is offline and you can't see that from their dashboard. And now you have to sign into our device management platform to make sure that the device is online and then take a screenshot to make sure we have proof of play. So all of these things come into play when we are two separate systems. And as of right now, transparency, we are two separate systems.
Yeah.
But what we've done now is because we opened that ecosystem, we said, hey, partner, here is our cloud API. Feel free to integrate. We don't have any of those barriers anymore. So right now, I would say we're at the very beginning of that transformation. It's really getting that voice of customer and that end user saying, hey, like I'm using 100 Sony endpoints. I want this integrated. That would help move the needle with those conversations, definitely. So I think that this is a very pivotal moment where we can finally get those systems that people have been requesting, and Sony's open to it. And I think that a lot of our partners that we're in discussions with are open to it as well. So hopefully we have some new things that we can launch and that you can see at InfoComm this year.
Very cool. David, actually, can you, he's asking about the DMP, the device management platform. Can you go through exactly the according to David, he's thinking the Sony DMP is two solutions. The first is for the device distribution and setup. The second for remote device management when the network is up and running. Can you make sure that
Clarify
we
that?
understand
Yes.
the difference? Yeah.
So yes, there are two different solutions. So one is called device provisioning tool, which is the one shot that I said earlier. And Tim, I did send you that link earlier.
Okay.
It's DPT provisioning.aps. So if you want to provide that link, so any end user can access that link and create an account, and you can begin provisioning your display. This is a one shot, so you'll never see anything else. Like you're not going to be able to see like monitoring or control. If you want to do all three, we have provisioning, monitoring, and control on a separate platform called Device Management Platform. And this platform does an all-in-one. So if you want access to that, please email me and we can get you in contact with our sales team. We do have demo licenses if you want to try a 30 or 60-day trial. We have that offering as well. And in that area, what you could do is provision, monitor, and control. So two separate logins, but only one login is free, which is the device provisioning tool.
All right, very cool. Kiana, I want to talk for a second. We're coming up on InfoComm about a month away, right? The 11th through the 13th. Talk for a second about where Sony will be and what you guys will be talking about the week of InfoComm.
Yeah, so week of InfoComm, we will be in booth 2001. I just found that out earlier. It's been in my signature for a while, but yes, booth 2001. Feel free to visit us. What we're showcasing is going to be our Pro BRAVIA display, our full lineup. So if you have questions on what series that you're looking at, we have right now in our lineup 4 different series from sizes 32 inches all the way up to 98 inches. So if you want to see that firsthand, we will have every single size in the booth, so you can take a look at that. We'll be showcasing plenty of partners. So partners will be running SoC in the booth as well. So if you're curious about our ecosystem and what works on board our platform, we will be discussing that. We will also have a full demonstration of our device provisioning tool and our device management platform. So if you're curious on what the differences is and like what the interfaces look like, we will be showing them firsthand there. And we will kind of have like a sample provisioning process so that you could see what it is firsthand.
Wow.
We also will have Crystal LED there like always. Love that experience all the time. So you'll see Verona there as well, our virtual production installations, and you can compare also different pixels on that side. And then we'll have a corporate area that will show different meeting room configurations, whether you decide to go like good, better, best. So one of the installations is going to have crystal LED. Hopefully, I'm not saying too much. Just like a little highlight. And then we'll also have in education PTZ auditorium area where we'll show the latest and greatest technology of our PTZ auto tracking cameras, which I love. If any of you have ever seen our SRG A series cameras, it has auto tracking built in. In my past life as a sales support engineer, I was always really, really impressed with this demo. So if you do have time to see it, I would recommend doing that. It's all in one, so the auto tracking is built in. And now we have upgraded versions on our broadcast rated cameras that have the all-in-one built into that platform as well. So if you're looking for a better image quality, the BRCs now have it. And we're going to have a tech suite that will showcase like a demonstration, because obviously on the show floor it's kind of difficult to do it live with so many people going back and forth. So reach out to your sales support engineer, your account manager, or even when you're at the booth, we are going to have like an information desk. So if you're interested in seeing that demo firsthand in like a private area where you can ask questions and have access to our engineers from Japan, this is a very special moment to do so. So yeah, reach out to us, come to the booth, and that's probably one of the biggest highlights. So yeah.
Yeah, the other thing that Sony's does a really good job is sustainability, and one of the things you'll be able to see is the power consumption of the Sony Bravia displays, because they are among some of the lowest power consumption. Which, when you look at the size of them, you wouldn't think that that's the case, but Sony has a really deep commitment to sustainability, and that's one of the areas that they're able to highlight that. Kiana, one other thing that other places people can see the Bravia display, the Pro Bravia display, you guys have showrooms, several different showrooms throughout the country. If they're not going to Infocom, how do they find a showroom that is relatively close to them?
So we have a couple of options. So we have one in San Diego, which is relatively close to me, which I run the San Diego office one. So in that showroom, you'll see like again our cameras, our PTZ, and our crystal LED options. And then we have another one in LA where we can see the virtual production configuration, which is really cool. I recommend that one. It's probably one of my favorite locations, but I'm a little biased because I haven't been to all of them. And then we have one in Texas, one in Florida, one in Illinois, and I might be missing one. I don't know, Tim, if Kelly gave you a list, but we do have. Go ahead.
She did not.
Oh, she did not. Okay. So what I could do is post a link where we can basically create a request to tour any of these facilities, and then you can see firsthand what we have to offer. I would also say that we have a demo program. So if any of you are interested in any of our products, we do have a 2-week demo program. So what you could do is, whether that's Bravia or cameras, CLED is a little bit more difficult since it's a very big product, but cameras and displays, no problem. We have a 2-week loan period. Of course, that could be extended if you needed more time with the device, but offer to all. So if you are interested, please reach out. All my contact information is there, and I can hook you up with the right person to get that demo product over to you.
All right, very good. Kiana Pampa, I appreciate your time. Kiana Pampa, product manager for Bravia Professional Display. We will see her at Infocom at the Sony booth. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, so that is our launch webinar for today. Again, we appreciate your time. Feel free to reach out. Kiana's down at the bottom. You can click on her. You can click on me if you want. I don't know a whole lot. I'll give you Kiana's email address. So for everybody here, we appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon.